Okay, this is our wood lathe. On a wood lathe, you're going to basically take a piece of wood and rotate it around and shove a sharp pointy metal object in it and change the shape. So we can make bowls on here, we can make a baseball bat on here, table legs, anything round. This would be a good way to do it. We don't, we probably use this 2 or 3 times a year nowadays because we get so wrapped up in real big projects that don't involve the lathe. But there was a small period of time where I had a few kids that just wanted to make bowls and stuff, and so we spent quite a bit of time on the lathe and doing different things, and it's kind of fun. It's a pretty fun one to use. Like, I like to think maybe when I retire I'll spend a lot of time on the lathe, but I don't know if that's true or not. I'm going to go over the rules, and that'll kind of cover things. If you're actually going to run this, we're going to go over it much more deeply, but I'm just trying to get you so you know the rules and you can pass the test. One way we use the lathe is with a spindle turning. So we're basically going to put a square piece of wood in between two centers and spin it and turn it around. Now this piece of wood I think was a 2x4, and 2x4s they don't lathe up very good. They chip out a lot, but it'll work for a demonstration. So I'm going to pop out this little drive spur, and I'm going to hammer that down in there. Now we make a saw kerf on the bandsaw so that that center has a place to drive into. So we cut that corner to corner on the bandsaw, and then we can put that in there. And then we're going to line this up with the center and get that in there snug. Okay, so when we put our tool rest in, we're going to get this thing 1/8 of an inch away. And the 1/8 of an inch, you're going to have to continually change a little bit. Because when you start, you got a square, and then as you start knocking the corners off, it gets smaller, so then you keep having to move it in because it's getting smaller and smaller. So we're going to adjust that to its 1/8 of an inch away. Number 2, it says don't turn pieces with splits, loose, knots, or other defects. Number 3, use only sharp tools. Now we've got a couple of these. They're called easy wood tools, and they have a little carbide tip that can be changed out. So that's a nice way to have a sharp tool. Number 4, do not use a gouge on a face plate. Use a round nose instead. So a face plate would be like, no, this is a spindle. A face plate would be, we don't have that, and we've got a bowl mounted, and so we're turning like the inside of a bowl, and they're saying don't use a gouge. Here's a gouge. Okay, and I guess maybe these corners can catch on it when you're going on the inside. That's why you're not supposed to do that. Don't fret, that's not on the test. I do have a bowl gouge. I've got this, and those corners are way back, so I guess this is okay to use. Anyway, enough about that. Okay, we're going to work on the down turning side. So when this thing's spinning, coming towards us, we're going to work on the down turning side. If we're doing a bowl, we don't have this. We just have a piece mounted here, and we're going to work on this half because that's the part spinning down. We're not going to work on that half because that's going to come up. Okay, we're going to remove the tool rest before sanding the workpiece. So eventually, once we get it shaped to what we want, we're going to take some sandpaper and sand this while it's spinning. But we don't want this tool rest in the way because then our fingers are going to get stuck down in there, and that'll really hurt. Large pieces should be turned at slow speeds. It's a good idea to wear a face shield over your safety glasses because we're going to be making a lot of chips, so we got a face shield over there. Okay, we're going to set the tool rest so that the edge is 1/16 of an inch above the center. Now, I kind of changed that rule a little bit. If we're using like a flat tool, that might be okay, but like these are a little thicker, and so if I'm a 1/16 inch above, then I'm cutting way up here. So I want the tip of the tool, the cutting action of the tool to be a 1/16 of an inch above. So I might drop that just a hair down, so that way my tool, the tip of my tool, is going to be a 1/16 of an inch above the center. Now once you have that center set, you really don't have to change it as long as you're using the same tool. Your 1/8 of an inch away, you need to change. Your 1/16 inch above center, you don't have to change. Those two will be on the test. It's going to say, how far should the tool rest be away? I think we all know that's 1/8 of an inch. How far should it be above? 1/16 of an inch. Good. All right, rotate stock by hand to make sure it clears the tool rest before turning on the lathe. If we put the tool rest in and we're on a flat spot, where it is a square, and then we go to a corner, I might actually hit it on the corner. Okay, so we're going to rotate it one time by hand before turning it on. I think the question on the test is, what should you do before turning on the lathe? Rotate stock by hand. Good. Base plates must be bandsawed in a rough circle. So that's like if I have a big hunk of wood over here, I need to get a rough circle. I can't just be knocking off these gigantic corners. Stand to one side of the lathe when turning it on for the first time, when your workpiece is first mounted. So what I like to do is I turn the speed way down and I pop this thing on. Then I can ease that speed up and make sure that thing's not going to fly out and hit me in the face. Okay. And number 13, never touch a workpiece while it is turning with your fingers when the tool rest is in place. It's just asking for a painful injury. That's you're gonna have your loose clothing tied back, your hair tied back, no long sleeves, any of that stuff, because you really do run the risk of something getting sucked in there, and then sometimes I have these bad thoughts when I'm getting ready to go to bed. I can't sleep, and I start thinking about shop injuries. Sometimes I think about my arm getting caught in there, and then it rips my arm off, and then it just every time it comes around, it hits me in the head with my arm. But don't have thoughts like that. Yeah, that's it for the lathe. If we're going to run this, like if you're going to use this, we'll get into it a little bit more detail. Oh, hey there. No trouble at all.